about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So you'll see a headline about how we have a third nostril. We don't. We have two nostrils. It's a part of our nose. But this is a very interesting, eye-catching headline because doctors were able to remove a tumor that was in a woman's spine, I believe going through her eye. Now, this was, I don't want to make anybody kind of sick, but they went through the eye socket and was able to remove the tumor. Now, Carla Flores is now 20 years old, was started experiencing double vision at the age of 18. She didn't know what was going on. She was referred to a Dr. Mohammed Labib, a neurosurgeon at the University of Maryland Medical Center, and he found a rare cancerous bone tumor on her spine called a chordoma. The tumor was wrapped around the patient's spine and spinal cord and had invaded the vertebrae in her neck just below the base of the skull. Only 300 of these chordomas, according to WMAR News, are diagnosed in the United States every year. So he had to use a surgical process he calls the third nostril. Now, this is a method he developed while studying cadavers. In the first of its kind surgery, Dr. Labib and his team removed the tumor through her eye socket. He felt reaching the tumor from the back would have risked spinal cord damage. He said, we also avoided disturbing and damaging key structures such as the eustachian tube that connects the ear and the nose, major blood vessels like the jugular vein and internal carotid artery, and the nerves that control swallowing and speech. After the tumor was removed, Dr. Kalpesh Vakaria rebuilt the bottom of Flores' eye socket using a titanium plate and rebuilt the cheek with bone from her hip. Besides the spinal tumor, she had a very large chordoma wrapped around her brainstem. That required 2 additional surgeries, one of which they did go through her nose. Learning about the spinal canal and brain tumors, she said, was terrifying, but she's so grateful that the doctors were able to remove them. We don't know why people get chordomas, but they think they arrive from some fetal development, the notochord, which is the precursor to the spine. I had a tumor that originated from me as a fetus called a teratoma, and it was benign, thank God. But what was very interesting about that tumor is there was a little bit of tuft of my hair and my true hair color, which was a strawberry blonde. You've read that some of these can have teeth, and it's because it's the same germ layer from the embryonic development that can get caught in this tumor, and this tumor ended up on my ovary, and it had to get removed. There was no way I could bypass surgery, and I was in medical school at the time, or I was a resident at the time, and my doctor was fantastic. But they went in through the side of my stomach and pelvis. For my hysterectomy, however, they were able to do that vaginally. So I have very little scarring, and I wasn't excited about, the position I was going to have to be in the whole time in surgery, but you're asleep, whatever. People on OnlyFans do more. And it was, it's amazing how they could go through other canals or orifices to get things done. And the vaginal hysterectomy was so painless. I didn't even need pain medication the next day that I'm like, can you remove my teeth that way and do my cataract surgery that way? And my dentist and ophthalmologist said, no. Hey, if you need cataracts, we'll do it through the eye. Oh, but it was so easy through the vagina. Nope, not doing that. So this isn't the first time. This is not unheard of. But, wow. And good for Dr. Labib for, coming up with this. I would hate for somebody to struggle with a tumor or double vision. And I don't know how long it took for her to get diagnosed. But if I had a patient walk in or call me and say they had double vision, or they had headaches that wouldn't go away, I'd order a scan of their head. And usually the scan of the head will include part of the neck. If we think there's any issues with their arms or fingers, then we would also scan the neck. And so, before all the changes with Obamacare, this would be diagnosed lickety split. You wouldn't miss this. And then hopefully catch it early. But the problem is with medicine these days now, people can have neck pain. And they're like, yeah, I just have neck pain. I don't want to take it. I don't want to spend the money. I'll just, throw some dirt on it and I'll be fine. And people ignore their headaches. And I'm not saying everybody with headaches has a tumor. But, in the olden days, we would not diagnose you with a migraine disorder or hormonal headaches without at least making sure there wasn't a tumor. Just scan, make sure it's clear, and then we could start looking at the non-deadly causes that could be possibly causing headaches. Even though we assume, we already checked for infection, things like that. Nowadays, I'm noticing people are being treated online over the phone, and I'm like, has anybody done a scan? There was a patient whose abdomen was growing, and they weren't getting fat. And they were having bowel issues and pressure issues. I go, has anybody scanned you? This could be a tumor. I don't want to scare people, but we would have never let things get that far. Also, you would have felt it. You would have examined it, felt something hard, and then, So, they can do really, really cool things. Nowadays in medicine, I'm not saying, try to find something, just so you could get a cool surgery. But, we used to have diagnoses that were death sentence. Downton Abbey, I know it's an older series, but they were talking about how one of the characters had pernicious anemia and they were going to die. Pernicious anemia is very easily treated these days with B12 and folate. But back then, it was a death sentence. So it's amazing what we've been able to do. 1-877-Doc-Daliah, don't go away. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hotshot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians, only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on X or Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So, Texas Governor Abbott signs a $1 billion voucher bill, according to AP News, in a milestone for school choice supporters nationally. School choice is something that has been asked for by parents for decades. And nationally, Congress hasn't acted on that. And part of the reason is the teachers' unions and the public school system is still very, very powerful. And they fear that the more parents who decide to use their money to go out of the public school system, the less money goes to the school system. But parents want a choice, especially if they're seeing that these kids are failing and not becoming proficient in reading and math and other subjects. So according to AP News, Texas is going to implement a $1 billion school voucher program. This is one of the largest in the country that'll use public dollars to fund private school tuition under this bill that he signed on Saturday. School voucher programs have, our school voucher supporters have, long asked for this. There's been a lot of resistance from Democrats and rural Republicans. But Trump last month asked lawmakers to finally get the bill to Abbott's desk. And Texas now joins more than 30 other states that have implemented a similar program, of which about a dozen have launched or expanded their programs in recent years to make most students eligible. They say school vouchers have been his primary focus this year after his 2024 election cycle. And I guess there were lawmakers on both sides that voted against that bill. And so, this is how I look at it when it, goes to, and just to give some of the specifics, beginning next school year, Texas families can receive $10,000 a year to help pay for students' private school tuition. Children with disabilities can qualify for as much as $30,000 a year. The program will be capped at $1 billion for the first year and cover up to 90,000 students, but could cost up to $4.5 billion a year by 2030. So yes, that could be expensive. And, people are thinking, well, why would anybody reject that? Well, if, individuals are like, to heck with this, I could go to private school, then those individuals that don't get access to this money are forced to go to public school. And it starts to make public school, used to, well, that's just the way public school is. Yeah, but it sucks. That's just public school. There's no other options. There are some private schools, but those are for the ultra, ultra, ultra rich. So they get to go to Ivy League or boarding schools, but public school is public school, so we're all the same. Well, parents don't want their money going to mediocrity. They don't want their money going to biological males showering with their daughters. They don't want their money going to lack of proficiency. A lot of parents and students say that half of the class time is spent on the teacher trying to help these children of migrants who speak a second language try to understand the concept. Otherwise, they just sit there. And so they're waiting for the teacher to try to explain and translate to the children that don't speak English. Well, at some point, parents are like, this is ridiculous. Yet private school is so expensive. And I'm going to tell you, private school costs are going to skyrocket because the more parents want private school, the higher the demand, the more the prices go up. And they can't build enough private schools. The wait lists for private schools are ridiculous. And I also think the price of it, we had our kids in private school. But the reason why we did private school was because of my show and my being public, I needed to make sure the kids had a little extra security. And when we were getting, phone calls or letters to the house and actually 2 break-ins into our house, who knows if they were, fans or critics of the show or whatever, I just needed to know that the kids were safe. So we picked a private school that had a guard. I'm very glad they went to the school, but that was a lot of money. People ask Daliah, why didn't you send your kids off to college, And why did you do state school? I go, number one, I went to that state school, UNLV. I loved it. Number two, it was cheap. And my kids got academic scholarships. So I didn't have to spend hardly any money. That was a slam dunk. And I love UNLV. But I spent money on their grade school. Now, their math, their reading, proficient, really proficient. Their college prep was excellent. They didn't have all this canceling and all this woke stuff. It was, they got really good educations. And public school should be just as good as private school. No kid should be learning less because they don't have the money. But the problem we have is public school is not getting their act together. And if public school doesn't get their act together, parents aren't going to wait. Your kids are only 5 years old for 12 months. They're only 6 years old. What they're able to learn and digest and grasp, the clock is ticking. And waiting for a public school system, to have as comprehensive a program as some of these private schools, it doesn't happen. And now that they want to get rid of grades and ABCs and everybody gets the same grade no matter how hard they work. I think there was a college class, I told you about this, where a teacher wanted to explain what communism was or something like that. And so he said, all right, I'm going to have you guys study for this test, get a grade on it, and then we're going to do something a little different after the test. So, people got A's, B's, C's, etc. The ones who worked really, really hard got A's. The ones who hardly did anything got D's, whatever. Then for the next test, he goes, all right, everybody's going to get a C. No matter what, whether you study or not, no matter what your grade is, y'all are going to get a C. Well, the students who were the super students were like, wow, so I don't study? So I study less? And then the people who didn't study, they got the C anyway. But the A and the B students were like, no, I don't like this. Okay, if you work harder, there should be an incentive to work harder. But I don't want these young children that don't have access to good school, getting stuck in a public school system that is not getting fixed. And I told you how to fix a public school system. All the classes should be done short and in the morning. 20 minutes, 30 minutes top. None of this sitting there for an hour with the kids getting bored and not paying attention. The math, the reading, the science, all the concrete stuff done in the mornings. And then they go to lunch. If they get beat up or they get picked on and bullied, they could eat at home. Because I remember sitting alone in the cafeteria. It was embarrassing. So you have lunchtime, and then the afternoon is all the practical learning. Depending on their age, they get introduced to all the trades, to all the careers. They learn how to farm. They learn how to hunt. They learn how to swim. They learn self-defense. They learn CPR. They learn first aid. They learn about electricians. They learn about plumbing. They learn about teaching, medicine, law, all of that. And then they finish school by age 16, sophomore year. Everybody then graduates, as long as they have proficiency, by 16 years old. Then year 17 and 18, your junior and senior year, is now your free college, which is still a part of the high school program, so no more tax dollars. And during that year, 17 and 18, they either get a trade for electricians or plumbing or contracting, or they get their associate's degree. So that every child, by the time they are 18 years old, knows what they want to maybe go into in life, have some certification, have knowledge of another language, knows how to fend for themselves, survival skills, cook, fish, hunt, has knowledge of all the different trades and all the different jobs out there. And these kids would be right on the money. And if you're saying, yeah, but there's not enough staff, actually that helps the staff. If you only need part-time staff for math and science, now that frees up staff. And now you can incorporate so many other teachers as it pertains to the electrician, the auto mechanic, the chef, the medicine, the I think that sort of a school would be fascinating. And none of this 3 months off for summer. Kids need to learn year round. You could expand Christmas break, winter break to 4 weeks. You could have maybe a week or, a week or two off throughout, but none of this where the kids sit on their asses all summer long. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regenerations. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. So I'm sure many of you saw over the weekend that there was a nightclub in Philly where when you get bottle service at a table, I guess you also get a sign, either for your name or whatever. Well, some idiots decide to take the letters, and I think this was with the help of the waitresses, and put the letters to, let's just say the word rhymes with truck. Then it says the Jews. And this anti-Semitic sign got videotaped. People around the sign laughing and giggling and, screaming obscenities about the Jews. Well, the owner of the nightclub, you mess with the wrong owner. Owner of the nightclub is David Portnoy. And he was livid. And he goes off on a rant. Apparently, he was supposed to be on his way to the Met Gala, and he starts screaming and cussing. And I guess two of the waitresses have already been fired. And he says he's not going to sleep until he finds every person responsible. And apparently the video, I think Mike Wade or something like that, whoever I guess posted the video, he wasn't there. But he got this video and he posted it, and he was all sorry, and he was ratting out everybody that was there that did this. But the Jewish owner, was mad. I mean, he was mad. And David Portnoy, good guy. But the video went all over the news, and people saw this ridiculous display of anti-Semitism. And Philly's one of the coolest cities. Okay, they are not known to be anti-Semitic. So for something like this to happen, not on Philly's watch. And so many people have spoken out and, said how ridiculous this is. And you look at, why would young people have that attitude? I mean, they're in the nightclub owned by a Jew. They watch movies that Jews make. They're teachers, they're doctors, they're nurses, they're construction workers. I mean, are they that stupid? Do they have that much hate? They're so dumb. Well, interesting. What Portnoy wants to do is have these kids go on a tour of Auschwitz. And that's kind of smart. He said, we're going to send these kids to Auschwitz. They're going to do a tour of the concentration camps and hopefully learn something. and maybe their lives aren't ruined and they think twice. He's going to make this a learning experience. Now, the president of Temple University in Philly, John Fry, said the college would be investigating the incident and also suspended a student he believed was involved. They said at approximately 3 p.m., the university became aware of reports that Temple students were involved in an anti-Semitic incident at an off-campus location last night. This is deeply disturbing, and it is with profound regret that I must share this news with our community. He said, in the strongest terms possible, let me be clear, anti-Semitism is abhorrent. It has no place at Temple, and acts of hatred and discrimination against any person or persons are not tolerated at the university. Okay, thank you. This is what Harvard should have done. This is what all the other presidents should have done. So well done, President of Temple University. But very good concept that David Portnoy said, why don't, because the lives of these kids can be ruined very easily now. Having videos or your names ousted as, you can really, look at what happened with Mel Gibson. For years, he couldn't get a movie. He couldn't get, because of his comments. And then, he apologized to the Jewish community. And I think people can redeem themselves. And I think people, when they're drunk, can, do stupid things. But what is the best way to teach somebody who's young, who doesn't know what the flip they are talking about when they hate somebody of a certain religion, who, by the way, was targeted by Hamas and raped and killed and beheaded babies? How does a young person not sympathize with, individuals that belong to that community? I don't get it. But then maybe teach them. Maybe they should see Dachau, see the concentration camp. See, I grew up because my family, grandparents lived through that. They had to escape. Thank God they were able to escape, because I wouldn't be here if they weren't able to escape the atrocities. Yet these younger generations, all they're doing is listening to somebody online and all these stupid conspiracy theories. And they're like, you know what? That looks like a cool thing to videotape and be a part of. And do they realize how stupid, how disgusting? And I don't like the canceling and all that, but if you are racist, if you are homophobic, if you are anti-Semitic, you think you're going to get a job? You think somebody is going to want you in their, in their business or whatever, and then they get sued if other anti-Semitism or bigotry or racism exudes from your mouth or from your actions? So, David Portnoy is like, rather than, because originally he was mad. He's like, their lives are ruined. But then he's like, I'm going to take them to Auschwitz. Let them learn. Maybe they'll get a flippin' clue. And maybe that's what we need to do. See, growing up, it was all about Holocaust. And as a kid, it was overwhelming. Every time there was a movie, I think there was a Vanessa Redgrave movie, and I had nightmares. But it was ingrained in me that this is what happens to Jews when bad people get to take advantage. And the younger generations had protection. Because we have the UN, which supposedly is supposed to prevent any atrocities to Jews or people, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Israel. I don't know if UN's doing their job, doesn't look it. But there was a time where, even though a lot of us did pick up on anti-Semitism, I did. It was nowhere near the degree and the deadliness that my grandparents dealt with. And so now you have the Gen Zs and the millennials who are so far removed from it, especially if their grandparents are dead, that they're like, okay, well, I see the black and white pictures. That was a long time ago. Nobody's going to do that. But my friend says they suck, so I'm going to be on that. And they just have no idea. And maybe we do need to teach them. Now, you would think they would be taught in school. You'd think David Portnoy wouldn't have to actually pay for a flight to Europe to show them a concentration camp because they learned about this in school. I guess they're not. Or when they are, they're like, oh, that's fake. Or ain't no thing to me. Bad stuff happened to people back then. Bad stuff happened October 1st in Israel of 2023. Bad stuff's happening to Ukrainians Bad stuff's happening in Africa. Bad stuff is happening. The Taliban takes over Afghanistan, and these women have to immediately cover themselves or get kicked out of school. You know, I don't want anybody hating anybody. But when you hate a community that isn't doing anything wrong, that keeps getting assaulted or killed and discriminated against, you know, you really wonder how stupid people are. And this was at David Portnoy's nightclub. Oh, you bet he is, on a rage. One, it hurts his business, but two, he's Jewish. You kidding me? And the fact that somebody could be very vocal about it and video, and you see all the girls and the guys around there giggling, and somebody say, yeah, blink the Jews, blink the Jews. Do you even know what the hell you're talking about? Yeah, I had a patient years ago saying, Daliah, I am so glad I found you because I just don't want to go to a Jewish doctor. I should have asked why, but I just didn't want to deal with the stupidity. I go, just to let you know, I'm a Jewish doctor. She goes, oh, I'm sorry. I go, no, it's okay. It's okay. No, let's take care of you. And I did. I took care of her. But the only explanation is people are flipping stupid. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So every now and then we have a salmonella outbreak. This time the FDA has issued a recall on tomatoes in 14 states. And tomatoes, this is a big time for tomatoes because they have a lot of water content. They're fresh. Now that it's getting warmer, we like to eat more salads, but we're being told that tomatoes sold in 14 states have been recalled over the risk of salmonella contamination. Tomatoes sold by, let me give the credit where credit's due, People Magazine is reporting this. Tomatoes sold by wholesaler companies Ray and Mascari, Williams Farms Repack were recalled earlier this month. And the states where the tomatoes are sold include Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, Missouri, Mississippi, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Wisconsin, South Carolina, Georgia, and North Carolina. Tomatoes sold across 14 states are facing 2 separate recalls. And on Saturday, the Food and Drug Administration announced in a press release that the company Ray and Mascari in Indianapolis was recalling 4-count vine ripe tomatoes packaged in clam shell containers. Now, salmonella is a bacterial illness that can cause disease in the GI tract. Sometimes it could just not be noticed, and your body will get rid of it on its own. For others, they can have severe nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. They could also cause rashes, because it affect liver, kidneys, and so it can be fatal in young children, elderly people, those with weakened immune systems. So, according to the release, the tomatoes that were recalled were sold by Gordon Food Service stores in the states I mentioned earlier. If at all you're concerned, go to the FDA website to look at some of the foods that you might possibly have been exposed to. Now, a question I keep getting asked is, by a listener who says, look, I partied hard in my 20s. Can I reverse it? Is it going to come back to haunt me? Well, SciTech Daily has an interesting article saying these common bad habits in your 30s can damage your body and minds for decades. However, I have seen livers regenerate. I have seen the lungs improve, hearts improve. So it's never too late to stop. But unfortunately, telling kids to stop smoking, drink excessively, be more active, falls on deaf ears. There was a peer-reviewed study in Annals of Medicine, and they looked at behaviors like smoking. They're linked to both mental and physical health declines that'll start as early as age 36. They say the effects are particularly pronounced when these habits persisted over many years. Now, this was from Finnish research. Their work tracked the health of several hundred participants over a 30-year period, offering one of the most comprehensive long-term views to date. They say previous studies have typically followed individuals from middle age onward over a span of 20 years, but this kind of looks at the early adulthood, which makes sense. So, I remember being young, going, all right, I know I'm drinking now, but that I won't see anything happen to me till later. Well, what's later, 40, 50, 60? We're already seeing issues in people's 30s. I'm seeing diabetes, high blood pressure, and then look at how that can put you at risk for heart disease and stroke. So they looked at individuals who were 27 years old and then again at 36, 42, 50, and 61. And they looked at depression and other mental health aspects as well as physical health, looking at blood pressure, waist size, blood sugar, cholesterol, blood fats. And they found 3 risky behaviors were assessed at each point in time: smoking, heavy drinking, and physical inactivity, exercising less than once a week. And they found that those who engaged in all 3 unhealthy behaviors at a single point in time did worse than anybody else. That makes sense if you smoked and drank and were inactive. But if you, limited your, activities, obviously that improved. So what do you do? Okay, people don't want to think, well, I'm screwed because, we partied when we were younger, etc. See, me, I didn't do drugs. I was in medical school. You couldn't. Did I go drinking with my friends? Yes. But I never wanted to drink silly and drink till I was stupid because bad things could happen. And I always had a test or I always had to study. I had to go to bed early and I worked. I had to be at work the next day because I worked while I was in medical school. So what do you do? Well, it's never too late. So if at all you're concerned about, my health, my waist size, whatever, start exercising. If you don't have to smoke or use Zen pouches and whatever, stop. Cut back on your drinking. Now, I understand, Super Bowl ended, but now we have the hockey playoffs and the basketball and then baseball. And I get there's always something, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to drink. Find something that you like that you could sip or drink slower or drink water. It's okay to drink water. Stop it with the fizzy drinks and the soda pop. You don't have to order fries. You could order vegetables. You could make your own sandwich. Eat more salads. Because I got to tell you something. Now, other people who have been eating like crap in their 40s and 50s are going to do worse than you if you aren't doing those behaviors you did in your 20s and you're eating healthy now. This study just exemplifies that you could be having issues, earlier on. They don't just have to happen when you're middle age. But, I think it's, I think it's we can't change the past. We could only educate the younger people. But since younger people don't want to listen, there's only so much you could do. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So, I remember my father had read an article in the 80s saying grip strength means you'll have longevity. And my dad had amazing grip strength. Now, he died at the age of 62. So, that didn't save him. He still had heart disease. But grip strength is a marker for some individuals on how healthy they are. And it's a very cheap, easy test. Now, I'm more of a, I'm more of a, kickboxer and kickballer. I'm not very good with my arms. I'm much better with my legs. I would run, I'd kick, I'd ski. So I don't have a lot of upper body strength. But using grip strength, study after study has shown that they could be a huge, reliable marker of human health. You squeeze the Jamar dynamometer as hard as you can, and then the strongest level of it gets marked, and then it, looks at and so, what you could do to improve your grip strength is squeezing on balls, whether it's those stress balls or tennis balls, etc. But maybe the reason why grip strength is a sign of health is because you're holding, you're grasping, you're moving, you're improving your muscles. I think you need to do cardio and, strength training and other things. But I think we blow off our arms thinking, well, if I can't lift the weights, I could do other things. Grip strength is a huge biomarker that keeps coming up in the studies as a sign of good health. So look at what these people do is it because they work manual labor? Is it because they do work on their upper body strength? Is it because they're eating well so that they have the, vitamins and the B12 and the protein? So, overall musculoskeletal strength and balance, you got to keep hearing these are things that are markers of good health. You remember we used to play the Wii game, and they'd be like, well, let's see your balance, and then we'll tell you how healthy you are. People love that stuff. People love their Apple Watch because it counts, their steps. Look, just baby steps if you are doing nothing and slowly work up. And you can very easily increase your activity and increase your health. 1-877-DOC-DALI. Don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch. And nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.